Hey everybody, this is Tom at Talent Guitar Works. I'm a repair facility and OEM builder in Southwest Florida. And I was doing the Mexican Strat rework videos until my customer who was watching those said, I need my Strat. And I set it up and I brought it to him. So the only part you really missed was me setting up the guitar and playing it. And you definitely didn't miss anything with me playing the guitar. But to make up for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover some stuff that's been kicked around on the internet. My buddy Matt Flaherty over at Texas Toast said, if you don't use one of these, then you're ripping people off. And this is just a digital gauge system made by Stewmac for the nut slots. Now it can be used at other parts of the guitar, the 12th fret on your electric guitars and acoustic guitars for your string height, and on the 17th fret for your bass guitars, because that's where you're supposed to check your string action height at on a bass. But they were talking about if you used these little guys here, these feeler gauges, that you were an asshole and you were overcharging people. And I was like, what are they talking about? And the reason I didn't know what they were talking about was I didn't know how they were using them. And I didn't know how they were using them because the luthier who trained me when I was an apprentice, Wally Rosov, Uncle Wally for those who know him, Uncle Wally showed me the way without using one of the Stewmac gimmick tools, and that is their nut slotting file set with the extra long set of feeler gauges where you stack them up to get the distance underneath. Now, don't get me wrong, Uncle Wally had almost every tool Dan Erlewine endorsed. He didn't bite on all of them though. And to be honest, he bit on some that he probably never used. But he never bit on the nut slotting tool, and the reason was he showed me how to do it this way. And the first thing he said was, you have to go out and you have to buy one of these, my first pencils. And I was like, what is he talking about? I have no idea. So I went out and bought these my first pencils, and he goes, okay, now cut off the eraser. So I went over on the saw and cut the eraser off. And then he put super glued a little handle to it, and he goes, now go take it over to the sander and sand it until it is cut in half. Brilliant, right? So I lost half of one of my first pencils right off the bat. I was like, man, okay. And then he said, look, this is what you do. He goes, you take your pencil and you lay it on your frets, and we're going to do that to where you can see it, hopefully. And you lay it across the frets and you strike a line. Whoops. All right, now that line is struck. You could see it right there on the nut. Now what that line is that's the no-go line. That's the line that you're not going to cut below with your nut slotting files. And before somebody says I'm a Stewmac shill, let's do this. Okay, these files I got were not from Stewmac. The file holder on this one, that's one of these, is from Stewmac. And then I've got these Music Lily files that I used, and I have these old aftermarket files. These didn't come from Stewmac because they don't have the Stewmac logos on them. They might be from Stewmac from like 2000, I'm not sure. Anyway, in this business, you get what you could use and use quickly, and it holds up, and you put other stuff aside, especially in a repair facility. Because a repair facility, the difference between us and people that just strictly build guitars is we have to play it where it lies, and we have to play it fast, and we have to play it right the first time and get it out the door. So, now that we've struck this line on here, and we know that we're not going to file deeper than that, and let's say this neck is strung, now we take our gauges, and you notice that these gauges are tarnished, but they're all marked, and they start at 12, 0.12, right? 0.012 rather. All right. If you take this gauge with the guitar strung and 440 tuned and slide it between the bottom of the first fret and the bottom of the string, if the gauge comes in and doesn't move the string, you have great string height. So it's 12 on the high E, 12 on the B string. Then you go to 14 for the G, 0.014. Then you go 0.016 on the D string, 0.018 on the A string, and 0.020 on that low E string. If there is clearance and this feeler gauge being inserted isn't moving the string and there's not a ton of distance between it and the bottom of the string, your nut slot is the right height. Now the last trick of the nut slot and building nuts simple. This is a Stewmac shill thing. This is the little Stewmac duck-billed nut vise. And it holds the vise in place for me to go after it with these files, and to also take the radius sanding beams that you can get anywhere that are the same radius as the neck and use it on the top of the nut. It just rounds everything to the same proportion, makes everything look nice and uniform and neat. So boys and girls, you can have this and use the old Stewmac nut slot depth stuff up there, or you can go get yourself one of these little pencils and cut it in half on the sander and go to town on it. And if you use that with these, you're going to be right. I've been doing this for, a couple decades, and they're all right. I don't have intonation problems with them or anything else. The other thing I was going to talk about in today's video was the fact that when you do a setup on a guitar, what you don't want to do is what we call chasing the setup around the neck. You try and do things in order, and the order that I try and tell people to do things in is first get the neck relief. And to get the neck relief, you grab your capo, you put your capo on the first fret, you put your finger down here depressing the string on this fret, then you take your .012 feeler gauge at the 8th fret and you slide it in between the bottom of the string and the top of that fret. If it goes in without moving the string, you're good to go. If it's too tight, turn your truss rod counterclockwise. 1/4 turn, let it rest. If it's way too much space between the top of the fret and that feeler gauge and the bottom of the string, tighten it, turning it 1/4 turn at a time clockwise. Once that's done, go ahead and tune the guitar, then go ahead and get your string height to where it needs to be. Then I go after the intonation. Once the string height and the neck relief are correct and the guitar has been tuned to 440, then I'll go ahead and go after that. If I do have a tremolo system on there, I have to balance the tension on the tremolo. If you are tuning your strings and you keep tuning tighter and tighter and it doesn't seem to be catching up at any point where you go and start again and you have to do it again, look at the base of your tremolo plate. It's probably raising up every time, which means you've got to tighten those springs that hold the claw to the tremolo. So that's it for today's video. I hope you guys learned something from this. And I'm sorry I didn't get that Mexican Strat rework here for just one more show. But Jim is enjoying the hell out of that guitar, and that's the way it should be. So look for us next time. We're going to be doing a review on the brand new spindle sander I just got in from Jet. And my old spindle sander, which is so old, it's a blue Ryobi, which I don't think they've made anything in blue in 2 decades. Finally gave up the ghost, and I went with the Jet benchtop that's a 1/2 horsepower, and I'll be unboxing that and showing it to you, and we'll see what you think. But anyway, this is Tom at Talent Guitar Works. We'll catch you next time. Bye.